There is a move so subtle, most people don't even realize it's happening. No shouting, no arguing, no dramatic exit, just silence. And yet, this quiet act can shift power in a conversation, a relationship, even an entire social circle. Why does being ignored feel so uncomfortable? Why do people suddenly become more interested when you stop giving them attention? Why does silence sometimes speak louder than words ever could? Because attention is currency. And when you stop giving it away, everything changes. Most people think power comes from what you say, how confident you sound, or how strongly you defend yourself. But real power often comes from what you refuse to engage with. Ignoring someone isn't about cruelty. It's not about punishment. And it's definitely not about playing games. It's about understanding one simple truth. Not every situation deserves your energy. Today, we're going to explore the hidden psychology behind ignoring people, why it affects the brain so deeply, when it creates respect, when it backfires, and how silence can either protect you or slowly isolate you. Because ignoring people is powerful, but only when you understand why. Human beings are wired for recognition. From childhood, attention equals safety. A baby cries, attention comes, needs are met. Your brain never forgets this pattern. So when someone suddenly withdraws attention, your mind treats it as a threat. This is why being ignored activates the same pain centers as physical injury. Not metaphorically, literally. Researchers discovered that social rejection lights up the anterior cingulate cortex, the same area that processes physical pain. Ignoring someone doesn't just hurt feelings, it hurts. Think about the last time someone left your message on read, or stopped replying after days of constant conversation. Your brain starts searching for answers. Did I say something wrong? Are they angry? Did they lose interest? Are they replacing me? Silence creates uncertainty, and uncertainty creates obsession. When there's no explanation, the mind fills the gaps with its own stories, usually negative ones. This is why ignoring someone can suddenly make you more important in their mind. Not because you changed, because your absence created a psychological vacuum. And the brain hates empty space. There's a strange paradox in human behavior. We value what feels scarce. If attention is always available, it becomes invisible. But remove it, and suddenly it feels precious. This is known as the scarcity principle. When something becomes less accessible, its perceived value increases. It explains why limited edition products sell out instantly. Why people suddenly want someone who loses interest. Why the person who stops texting first often gains the upper hand. Imagine two scenarios. In the first, someone replies instantly every time. They're always available, always agreeable, always present, predictable. In the second, someone replies occasionally, disappears for a while, and doesn't seem dependent on the interaction, unpredictable. Which one occupies more mental space? Usually the second. Because unpredictability triggers dopamine, the same chemical involved in gambling addiction. Your brain becomes hooked on the possibility of reward, not the reward itself. This is why intermittent attention can feel more powerful than constant attention. It turns interaction into a psychological slot machine. But here's the dangerous part. Many people don't ignore others to protect their peace. They do it to control outcomes. And that's where power turns into manipulation. Not reacting can communicate confidence. Imagine someone trying to provoke you, making subtle insults, testing boundaries, trying to pull you into drama. If you respond emotionally, you enter their frame. If you stay calm or disengage completely, you signal something different. You're not easily controlled. Silence in this context isn't weakness, it's restraint. High-status individuals often don't respond to every criticism, every rumor, every provocation. Because reacting to everything lowers your perceived value. When you argue with every negative comment, you show that your emotional state is externally controlled. But when you choose your battles carefully, people sense stability. It creates an aura of self-possession. Think about people who seem unshakable. They don't rush to defend themselves. They don't chase approval. They don't panic when misunderstood. They trust that truth doesn't need constant explanation. Ignoring noise allows them to focus on what actually matters. And that focus becomes power. But silence has a darker side. Used incorrectly, it becomes emotional abandonment. The silent treatment in close relationships doesn't create respect. It creates anxiety, confusion, and emotional distance. Instead of solving problems, it freezes them in place. Imagine trying to repair a conflict while the other person refuses to speak, acknowledge, or engage. You're left alone with unresolved tension. Over time, this erodes trust, because connection requires responsiveness. Ignoring strangers might protect your peace. Ignoring people who depend on you can damage them. This is why emotional maturity isn't about mastering silence. It's about knowing when silence heals and when it harms. Power without empathy becomes intimidation. And intimidation destroys relationships. There's one situation where ignoring becomes a shield. With people who feed on reactions. Provokers, attention seekers, chronic boundary testers. They rely on emotional responses to feel significant. When you react, they win. When you disengage, the game ends. Without fuel, manipulation collapses. This is why experts recommend the gray rock method when dealing with toxic personalities, becoming emotionally neutral and uninteresting. No drama, no arguments, no visible frustration, just calm indifference. It's not about punishment. It's about removing reinforcement. Behavior that doesn't get rewarded eventually fades. Your silence becomes a boundary, a quiet message. I'm not participating in this. And sometimes, that's the only message that works. Powerful people aren't those who ignore everyone. They're those who choose carefully where to place attention. Attention is focus. Focus is energy. Energy is life. Where you direct, it determines your reality. If you give attention to negativity, drama grows. If you give attention to progress, growth expands. Ignoring distractions isn't avoidance, it's prioritization. Imagine trying to achieve something meaningful while responding to every criticism, every notification, every minor conflict. Your energy fragments. But when you filter what deserves your response, clarity emerges. This is why silence often accompanies discipline, not because disciplined people are cold, because they're intentional. Ignoring someone doesn't just affect them, it changes you. Over time, constantly withdrawing from people can create emotional distance, even where connection is safe. You may start confusing peace with isolation, strength with detachment, independence with loneliness. Humans need connection. Even the strongest minds are not designed to operate alone indefinitely. True power isn't the ability to ignore everyone. It's the ability to stay open without becoming vulnerable to chaos, to engage without losing yourself, to withdraw when necessary, and return when it matters. Balance, not extremes. Ignoring people has power because attention has power. Silence can command respect or create distance, protect your peace, or push people away, and manipulation or prevent healing. The difference isn't the act. It's the intention behind it. So the real question isn't, should you ignore people? It's, who deserves your attention and who doesn't? Because your attention is your life in visible form. Where you place it defines the world you live in. Choose carefully.